On December 10th, 2025, Australia switched off social media for everyone under 16. That night, the government projected 3 words onto the pylons of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Let them be kids, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, X, Threads, Reddit, Twitch, and Kick. Accounts deleted, not restricted. Within the first month, the regulator counted 4.7 million under 16 accounts stripped of access. By June 2026, the Prime Minister was quoting over 5 million. 7 months later, researchers went and asked the kids what actually happened. More than 85% of them were still on the same apps. This video is not about whether kids belong on Instagram. It is about what a government has to build to answer that question, and who ends up standing in front of it. Start with what Australia passed, because most coverage got the shape of it wrong. The Online Safety Amendment, known as the Social Media Minimum Age Act, cleared Parliament in December 2024 with support from both major parties. Roughly 3/4 of Australian parents backed it. It gave the platforms 12 months to prepare, then went live on December 10th, 2025. The law does not punish a single teenager. It does not punish parents. No fine exists for a 14-year-old with an Instagram account, and none exists for the adult who let her have it. Everything lands on the companies. Platforms have to take what the statute calls reasonable steps to keep under 16s off their service, and failure costs up to 49.5 million Australian dollars, around 34 million US. Julie Inman Grant, the eSafety Commissioner running enforcement, keeps correcting people who call it a ban. She frames it as a delay, 16 instead of 13. The obligation sits with the platform, not the child. Hold on to that framing because it hides the part this channel cares about. To keep under 16s out, a platform has to work out how old you are, and it cannot do that for children without doing it for adults. Before the enforcement, someone had to decide what counts as social media. Watch how that went, because every country copying this law will have to repeat it. The test in the rules: a service qualifies if its sole or significant purpose is enabling social interaction between users. In September 2025, the eSafety Commissioner wrote to 16 companies and told them to self-assess against that line. WhatsApp, Roblox, Steam, Pinterest, Twitch, Lego Play. Make your case for why you are not social media. Twitch went on the list. It streams live and people talk in chat, so it enables social interaction. Pinterest stayed off on the reasoning that people go there to collect images rather than to socialize. Steam, a platform with friend lists, group chats, and user forums attached to a game store, stayed off too. Messenger Kids, WhatsApp, Google Classroom, Kids Helpline, and YouTube Kids were carved out. Then there is YouTube, which got the exemption first and lost it in public. The original plan spared YouTube because teachers use it. Meta, TikTok, and Snapchat went to war over that in their submissions, calling the carve-out irrational. TikTok's public policy director in Australia compared it to banning soft drink sales to minors while leaving Coca-Cola on the shelf. On July 30th, 2025, the government reversed, citing a survey where 37% of minors reported running into harmful content on YouTube. Alphabet threatened legal action. Under 16s can still watch YouTube videos without an account. They just cannot post, comment, or message. None of that line drawing is about age verification technology. It is a regulator deciding, service by service, which parts of the internet require a passport at the door. Reddit's word for the result was a patchwork. Now the enforcement. The moment the law went live, Albanese was on ABC with the numbers. About 200,000 TikTok accounts, 440,000 on Snapchat, roughly 150,000 on Facebook, and 350,000 on Instagram, all held by kids aged 13 to 15. Australian creators started reporting sharp falls in followers and views. On the Prime Minister's own TikTok, commenters announced they were still there and would wait until they could vote. By March 2026, the regulator had its own data, and it was ugly. 7 in 10 underage children still held accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. In April, eSafety reported the mechanics behind that. Platforms let users retry an age check over and over until they passed, and did not stop under 16 accounts from being created at all. Then came the study. June 25, 2026. The British Medical Journal publishes work by researchers at the University of Newcastle. They surveyed 408 Australians aged 12 to under 17, once shortly before the law kicked in and again 3 months after. Same kids, same questions. Over 85% of under 16s were still using TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, and X. 2/3 of them had run into some kind of age check. It did not stop them. Break the workarounds down and the picture gets embarrassing for everyone who wrote the law. Between 54 and 68% simply kept using the accounts they already had. No trick, no deception, nobody made them leave. Fake accounts with a false birthday, 15 to 19%. Borrowing someone else's login, usually a sibling or a parent, 9 to 29%. Private browsing windows, 11%. VPNs? Barely registered. The researchers noted them as rarely reported. That last one matters more than it looks. Politicians spent months arguing about VPNs, about tech-savvy kids tunneling out to foreign servers, about an arms race with teenage hackers. There was no arms race. The most common age check the kids ran into was typing in a birth year, encountered by 24 to 39% of them. You beat that by typing a different number. By age group, the results split. Usage among 12 and 13-year-olds did not move. It dropped among 14 and 15-year-olds. Among the over 16s, who the law never covered, it went up. The authors flag their own limits. Small sample, self-reported answers, early days, fair. An editorial published alongside it from Dr. Amrit Kaur Purba at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine framed the result as a partially implemented policy, where the mechanism meant to restrict access never reliably switched on. Lisa Given, an information sciences researcher at RMIT University in Melbourne, was blunter when NPR asked her whether the ban was working. She said she thinks it is failing. Then there is the test nobody expected to be this blunt. KJR, an Australian software testing firm, had run age assurance trials on more than 1,000 Australians during 2025. After the law took effect, they opened 50 fresh accounts across the covered platforms, declaring an age of 16. On none of them was anyone asked to prove it. Andrew Hammond, a director at the firm, told Reuters they were never once asked to verify or demonstrate their age. Read the mechanics of that, because it explains the whole failure. The public debate obsessed over whether face-scanning software can guess a teenager's age from a selfie. Accuracy rates, error bars, bias in the training data, all of it argued in advance. But the photo check only fires if an earlier stage flags you as possibly young, and that earlier stage guesses from your general activity on the service. If it never flags you, the expensive part never runs. The platforms built the fortified door and left the cheap one propped open. Meanwhile, the courts got involved, and their argument is the one you should be watching. In November 2025, the Digital Freedom Project, a Sydney rights group, filed a High Court challenge on behalf of two 15-year-olds. Reddit filed its own suit on December 12th, asking the 7 judges to strike the law down or, failing that, to stop the government listing Reddit as age-restricted. Both cases rest on the same constitutional argument. Australia has no Bill of Rights, but its High Court recognises an implied freedom of political communication. Lock people out of the platforms where politics happens, the argument goes, and you have burdened that freedom. Reddit added a second point, and it is the reason this story belongs on this channel. The company said the law forces intrusive and potentially insecure verification processes on adults as well as minors. In April 2026, the government filed its defense. It did not deny the burden. It accepted that the restrictions limit how young people take part in political discourse online and argued the law is proportionate because protecting children justifies it. Read that again. The government conceded the speech cost and defended it as a fair price. Every country copying this law inherits that trade. June 27th, 2026. Albanese announces the fix. New legislation raising the maximum penalty from 49.5 million Australian dollars to 99 million, around 68 million US. Double it and see if they care. The bill also lets the eSafety Commissioner compel companies to hand over evidence of what they have actually done to keep under-16s out. Not a press release about their commitment to safety. Documentation. Albanese was direct about why big tech are not doing enough to comply with the law and too many children remain on social media. The regulator opened investigations into Meta's Facebook and Instagram, plus Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube. That is every major platform the law covers. 7 months in, a government facing an enforcement problem answered with a bigger number on the fine. Here is where it stops being an Australian story about teenagers. Doubling the penalty changes the platform's math. At 49.5 million, a company can gamble that a self-declared birthday field counts as reasonable steps. At 99 million, with a regulator that can now demand the paperwork, that gamble gets expensive. So the platforms will stop guessing. They will start checking. And nobody can check a 15-year-old without putting the same checkpoint in front of a 40-year-old. Look at what the compliant platforms already built. X said it would combine self-attested age, identification documents, the date an account was created, and email addresses to work out how old a user is. Kik went with a mandatory third-party age system layered on top of other assurance methods. The rules require platforms to offer an alternative to uploading ID, and the usual alternative is letting a camera estimate your age from your face. So the checkpoint comes in 3 flavors. Government ID uploaded to a company that has been breached before, a face scan that reads your age off your bone structure, or behavioral profiling, where the service watches how you type, who you follow, and what you click, and decides whether you seem like an adult. Every one of those is a surveillance system built by the law and paid for by you. The ID upload turns each platform into a document archive, and document archives leak. The face scan turns your face into an account credential, and you cannot change your face after a breach. The behavioral check is the most invasive of the 3 and the one nobody protests because it never shows you a prompt. It just watches. Privacy-preserving alternatives exist. Zero-knowledge proofs can confirm that you are over 16 without telling the platform your name, your birthday, or your document number. The cryptography works and has worked for years. It is not what is getting built, because a verified identity is worth more to an advertising business than a verified age. Meta argued during the rollout that the ban pushes teenagers toward less regulated corners of the internet. Coming from Meta that is self-serving. It is also probably true, and the Newcastle numbers hint at it. The traffic did not vanish, it moved. Australia volunteered as the test case. Everyone else is reading the results. The UK is advancing its own restrictions on children's access to social media, and the Australian data landed in the middle of that debate. The EU's child safety work points the same way. Bulgaria has a bill, American states keep passing age verification laws, and courts keep taking them apart. The lesson those governments will draw from Australia is not that age-gating the internet failed. It is that Australia's version was too gentle. The next drafts will demand hard verification instead of a birthday field, because Australia has now demonstrated, with peer-reviewed data, exactly what a soft check is worth, which produces the outcome this channel has watched coming for 2 years. A law written to protect children ends with every adult proving who they are to open an app. The teenagers, meanwhile, borrowed a login. Australia deleted 5 million accounts and changed almost nothing. 7 in 10 underage kids kept their accounts anyway. The friction landed on everyone else, and the next version of this law will land harder. If a service suddenly wants your ID to confirm something it has no business knowing, that is not safety. That is a database with your face in it. Stay off the grid.